Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The member for Hawke asks this chamber to recognise that the government continues to strengthen Medicare through delivering the planned 58 Medicare urgent care clinics. I would suggest to him that he's a little premature in seeking this recognition, since the government has only delivered 16. I would also suggest to this chamber that we return to this motion after the government has actually delivered the 58 they've promised. And again I ask, as I so often do in this House, what about regional, rural and remote communities, where the need for healthcare is most acute? What is the Albanese Labor government doing for us? Of the 9 urgent care clinics already opened in Victoria, 6 of them are within 25 kilometres of Melbourne CBD and 550 kilometres from where I live. The other 3 are in Shepparton, Geelong, Ballarat, all large regional towns with ample health care facilities already. Mind you, they would complain. I'm sure that they don't have enough. Why isn't the government prioritising Mildura, Horsham or Swan Hill in my electorate of Mallee? Does the government plan to provide those communities with urgent care clinics where they are urgently needed? Some might accuse me of being cynical, but from where I'm sitting, it looks like the Labor government is doing with this policy what the Labor government does with all its policies, ignoring regional communities who desperately need the help in favour of metropolitan and large regional centres who vote for them. They know most rural and remote communities don't typically favour them at election time. So when they get into power, Labor just cast off the lifeblood to these communities and leave us to die on the vine. It is disgraceful. In the final analysis, however, this entire debate is practically moot from the perspective of people doing it tough in rural and remote communities that I represent. The fact is, urgent care clinics might do more harm than good in country towns where there aren't enough GPs as it is. Who is going to work in the care clinics? I know of one GP who's been taken out of his practice to work in the GP clinic. Nurses who already have more patients than they can handle and who are already close to burnout. They will be diverted to staff these clinics. It's a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it won't work where I come from. One thing the government could do to channel more doctors to where they are most needed in country Australia would be to reverse the perverse decision to expand the distribution priority areas to include suburban and outer metropolitan regions. But they won't, of course, because they expanded it for political reasons, to win votes in those urban electorates. Let's face it, Labor is deaf to the needs of regional electorates. Fancy politicising health. Who would have thought? The purpose of the DPA, as implemented by the former coalition government, was to address the maldistribution of doctors in rural areas. By extending it to the most suburban of Australia, the Labor government has completely undermined the purpose of the DPA. The number of international doctors moving away from rural areas as soon as Labor made the expansion public increased by 57% just in 6 months to the end of 2022, according to the Senate estimates. If the government wanted to do something about the provision of healthcare in rural towns, it would reverse the expansion of the DPA urgently. But the truth is the government doesn't want to do anything for remote towns in health policy or any other policy in regional centres for that matter, and we know why. Because there are no votes in it for them. Now that's cynical, but it's self-evident. Can the member for Hawke assure this chamber that the Labor government's urgent care clinics are intended for all Australians, or are they only going to communities who vote Labor? And if they do eventually get to remote communities where they are needed most of all, can he assure this chamber that there will be sufficient health workforce available to staff these clinics? Will the Labor government reverse their decision to expand the distribution priority areas? And what is the government planning to do to solve the chronic shortage of healthcare workers in regional and remote Australia? Thank you.